Have you or a friend of yours or somebody you know had an insurance claim that the insurance company chose not to pay for, or decided that it just wasn't strong enough to take, to get the checkbook out, write them a check? Your friend or family member or somebody told you they got screwed by the insurance company. Well, chances are that file was weak. There was something wrong with it. Insurance company took it full advantage of it. Look, my name is Steve Wiley. I'm a public insurance adjuster, and I help homeowners and business owners build claim files that are bulletproof so they get paid. The truth is these claim files don't fail or get denied because there's no damage most of the time. The reason they're getting denied or they're failing or they're just not working out or somebody's not getting paid is because the claim file is weak. Something's wrong with it. There's something missing. Insurance adjusters are trained to look for these things. They're not trained intentionally to go looking for these things. Don't misunderstand. Their training, the way it works is if those things are missing, they're not allowed to do anything for you. Therefore, it automatically ends up on the side where you're just not going to get a check. So look, what we do when we put our files together is the same thing that I give advice to contractors and homeowners and commercial building owners every single week when I get phone calls. There's three things that are going to set your claim up in a good position to get paid. And by paid, I mean it's going to get paid either now, or it's going to get paid in a little while by the insurance company, or it's going to get paid eventually by somebody else. The first thing you got to look at is, do you have legitimate damage? Is it legitimate damage that's covered by the policy? Like legitimate. And I'm not talking about maybe you had a hailstorm and maybe it had half-inch hail. You don't have to have 4-inch hail to have coverage or even have damage. That's not how it works. If you have legitimate damage that's a covered peril underneath your policy, then you typically have enough damage to force your insurance company to do an investigation, and they're going to have to make a decision about how much money they want to spend on your claim, either to pay it outright, pay it off, pay it like it should be paid, or pay it to make it go away. One of those things is going to happen. So your object, when you take on a claim or you file a claim or you start a claim or you get somebody to help you start a claim or file a claim for you, that's what contractors do. A lot of them do it in Texas. Technically not illegal, nothing wrong with it. When you get somebody to help you with that, you need to be aware that's what's going on. They're going to call a claim in to your insurance company and they're going to start the process. What you need to be aware of as a contractor or commercial building owner or a homeowner is uh, one of three things. When did the storm happen? And I mean what day, down to what hour. These weather reporting sites have a pretty good idea when these storms hit these areas, and you should be able to get an idea within a couple of hours. You don't necessarily need to tell your insurance company that, but that's going to be one of the questions that's on the test, so to speak. You're going to get questioned about that at some point, unless you're in an area that just gets smashed and it makes national news. And I've even seen things make national news and adjusters come out and say they've never heard of the storm that happened because they're from 4 states away, et cetera, et cetera. So that's not automatic, but you just need to be aware of what date did it happen, because if you don't have a solid date of loss, I'm telling you right now, if you get somebody to help you put together a claim and file a claim and you don't have a solid date of loss for your claim, meaning it doesn't make sense when people go do the research, or an engineer does forensic research, and I use that term very loosely with what some engineers are doing today. But if you get somebody that starts digging into it, is that information going to match real world conditions after the storm at your house? Is it going to match the way the weather was the day that it was at your parking garage or service station? Are those things is it going to be easy for them to find? Are they going to be able to pull a weather report and say, yeah, there was 1.5 inch hail there? Why would I not be looking for 1.5-inch dents in all of these accessories and extend coverage? Instead, what happens is if your data is off a little bit, then they come out and say, well, on the day that you filed the claim, there was no hail. We see 1.5-inch dents all over the roof on all the accessories. But that's got to be from another storm, because that's not what you reported. That's right. That's how I literally have a claim like that right now. So that's why it's important. You got to make sure that that date makes sense. If you're getting somebody to help you file that date or file on that date, maybe you weren't home, but you know you have damage. There's things going on in the neighborhood. Your commercial building roof is leaking now where it hasn't leaked before, and you have somebody helping you do that. That person helping you do that really needs to take a minute and look at that data loss and make sure it makes sense. And I'm telling you, don't get a data loss when you're going to show 1/2 inch hail and you got 1.5-inch dents up there. You need to get a data loss that makes sense. Insurance companies have done a really good job at taking logic out of the entire process. They've made the entire process as illogical as possible while trying to be logical about it when they communicate. This area on these three things, they're extremely logical about, is extremely black and white, is very straightforward. You reported hail on this date at this time. Was there hail? Was there wind? Was there rain for the leaks? Was there a tornado? Was there a hurricane? You can go on and on forever. I mean, was there lightning? Was there a storm? This lightning could have started the fire, right? So you see how important that is. That's why you need to make sure that you go through and you're doing the best that you can with your dates of loss, because insurance companies aren't specifically trained to find a problem like a data loss problem and deny your claim. Insurance adjusters are not allowed to do anything with your claim if the data loss and the information you provide doesn't make sense. And now you're stuck in a claim where you've got a roofer or somebody that's helping you, and it's going to take 4 or 5 more months than what it should have. Somebody at some point is going to sit on this claim, and it's going to take some time because there's a complication. And the insurance company is going to sit there and say, we don't understand it. We're not writing a check. We're not going to move any further forward with this claim until you make it make sense to me. And by then, the damage is usually done. You can't undo a bad data loss. You can't change the day. In some instances, you can't go back to before the policy started to get coverage. I have situations where people come to us and they say, listen, we didn't even have a policy and we gave them the wrong data loss for when we didn't have a policy. Can you fix that? No, that can't be fixed. So that's why I wanted to take a few minutes today and call out the 2 or 3 things that are just critical when it comes to putting your claims together. You've really just got to be on point. Insurance companies, it's like easy picking. They're shooting fish in a barrel. So don't let them do that. Make sure your data loss makes sense. Make sure it makes sense in the weather reports. Make sure it makes sense in the real world. Make sure it makes sense in the date, in the data that's at the house and the damage that you have. And make sure it makes sense and that you understand it as the property owner. Don't just rely on somebody else to say, well, I don't know if I was here. They gave me that date, so that's what I went with because everybody else in the neighborhood is getting new roofs. That's probably going to take the long road for you if your claim gets approved. There's going to be lots of obstacles and lots of problems, and your contractor or even your public adjuster, if you get one involved, is going to have a serious problem with it, and they'll never tell you that the real reason is because it's just totally screwed up. Okay, so the third thing that I've got when it comes down to bulletproofing your claim, the way we do it is you got to make sure that if you're going to document the file and you're going to add information to it, you're going to communicate with the insurance company. It's more than a homeowner writing a fancy letter to the insurance company trying to get them to pay for something that they don't want to pay for or do something that they don't understand. This goes way beyond that. What I'm talking about is when you communicate with your insurance company or you make a phone call or you send them an email, your communication needs to make sense. You may have a contractor who's helping you do certain things. They may or may not be allowed to do that. We're not the claim police when it comes to that. But you need to be aware that when you're communicating with them, it's going to have to make sense. Remember, it's got to tie back to you need to have legitimate damage that's covered by your policy. You need to have a data loss that's bulletproof. It's going to stand the test of time. It's going to stand all of the analysis that's going to be thrown at it. It's going to be able to withstand somebody like an engineer digging into it and writing a 25-page report about how the hail never happened on the day at your house that you're claiming. These are the things that you need to be aware of when you're creating and sending and receiving and exchanging documentation with your insurance company. And documentation with your insurance company is more than just written emails. It's more than just pieces of paper that they send you. Documentation with your insurance company includes phone calls. When you talk to an adjuster, and I can tell you this because I was on the other side for many years, several thousand claims I processed. And let me tell you something, when you talk to an adjuster, you already know your phone call is probably recorded, whatever version. Okay, the important part that you need to understand is when you're done with the phone call, that adjuster is going to go into their system and update their notes with your claim about your conversation, and they get the opportunity to write it however they want. They're going to tell the story how they want to tell the story. And I'm not bashing anybody because everybody in the whole world tells the story the way that they want it to come across to their boss or to their significant other or to somebody else that is important. What I'm saying is after you talk to them on the phone, you're creating documentation that you have no control over, and the things that you said or agreed to or caved in for or accepted or allowed them to tell you and get away with are being documented in a way that you have no control. You'll never see them. You never have access to them. They will never give them to you, and they will never share them with you. Okay? You need to know those things are being put down, used for their internal notes, and they are not being used at that point most of the time to help pay for your roof. So you need to be aware of the documentation that you're creating when you have phone calls, documentation you're creating when you send them emails, document even when you call them if you want to bitch them out. Sometimes that's effective. Sometimes you get a supervisor who's like actually has authority to adjust a claim. But even if you gripe at somebody for an hour on the phone, you're not going to fix legitimate damage. You're not going to fix a bad data loss. You're not going to fix major problems with your claim. All you're going to do is create documentation. So you got to be aware of these three things when you go through a claims process and do the best you can to make sure those three things make as much sense as possible, no matter how many times you have to tell the story. And I don't mean it's about getting the story right. What I mean is it doesn't matter how you change it. If you tell the story forward to backward, you tell it backward to forward, you start in the middle, you start at the beginning, you start at the end. I don't care where you start. The result needs to be the same. It wasn't broke. This is the day it got broke. It's still broke. That's as simple as it gets. This is literally the process that I use every single day. Same process I used to use, the exact same process when I used to process claims, and I processed large loss claims and complicated claims, and I did a lot of good for a lot of people. I did a lot of good for the insurance companies that I worked for too. And this is exactly the same process. Does it make sense? Is it legitimate? Is it covered? When did it happen? Is it inside the policy period? These are all the checklist things that you got to be aware of. That's why your claims are getting hung up. That's why I feel pretty passionate about making sure that I do what I can to help. I can't tell you how many contractors I've helped get started in claims as a public insurance adjuster. And the process is always the same. I try to help them understand as we go through the process. This is where you have to start. If you don't have this, you can't go to the next step. If you don't have that, you can't go to the next step. If you don't have that, you're not going to ever make it to the finish line. So if you're missing one of those, or your claim's not getting to the finish line, or you got a claim that your contractor's working on for 8 months, or you have a contractor that's come to you and said, well, we got a little bit of damage, I'm not sure if it's related to this date. You need to kind of pay attention a little bit and help yourself and try to figure that out. Get involved a little bit, do what you can, get your contractor to bring you the information and help you figure it out together. This is a team sport. This insurance companies have made this a team sport, that's for sure. So those are the things that I recommend when it comes down to it. Make sure you've got legitimate damage. Without that, your policy is not going to cover anything. Shouldn't, anyway. And by legitimate damage, I don't mean if it's hail damage or it looks like hail damage in a contractor or somebody, and it happens. It's very unfortunate. Some people get a little overzealous, a little too desperate for the sale. But if you have somebody get up on the roof and they create damage, a lot of people don't like it, and it's not right, and it is illegal, and typically involves a police report. But as far as a public insurance adjuster goes, it's still covered damage. So just keep in mind, you're looking for legitimate damage, and you need to have a bulletproof data loss. Without a bulletproof data loss that you can show everybody when it happened, like literally, think about it, with a fire. So you have a fire, you can literally go to the fire station, get a printout of your report for your fire department report. I don't know how many people have done that, but I had to do quite a few, go get the reports. Literally, you know what time the call came in, you know what time it was dispatched, you know who it was dispatched to, you know what engine got sent out, you know who was riding on the engine, you know how long they spent on site, you have a description of what they did on site. And when they're finished, then it even describes that what they did is they cleaned up, rolled up the hoses, loaded the truck, then that truck number, whatever, engine number, whatever, went back to the fire station. This is literally built into all of their reporting. On a fire claim, you've got every one of those things. So where's that on a hail claim or a wind claim, right? It's there. Just make sure you have it, because I'm telling you, if you have it and you can put it together, it's going to make all the difference in the world. And then make sure that you work your documentation so that anybody can pick up your file and move it forward. A lot of times, people that aren't used to building claim files so that other people can pick them up and work on them are going to have a hard time putting files together that can be picked up and worked on. So basically, if you're putting together claim files as a contractor, first is if you're working one claim at a time, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You need to know that claims is a volume game. You're never going to get paid what you need. You're always going to think you're not making enough money because you're only doing one claim at a time. You need to build a system to process these, right? And part of your system needs to be the ability to put together all the right documentation so anybody in your organization can pick it up. And if you can't get it paid, you're not going to sit on it any more than a bad PA would sit on it 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, a year, right? PAs get roasted for that for good reason. But as a contractor, is it really any different when I can pick up a file from you and I can literally have it paid if the homeowner just cooperates or the commercial property owner cooperates with us? I can literally have it paid in a few months. Few months from me starting from zero and the file is 9 months old, right? So create a file, somebody can like me can pick it up and run with it, and you're going to be that much closer. I have that much less work to do. Have a data loss that's solid, that cannot be shaken, cannot be disputed. And a guy like me, when I get a hold of it, I'm going to make gravy with that sucker. That's how this works. Obviously, the legitimate damage is there. You guys are contractors are damage experts. You guys see more damage than we'll ever see as a public insurance adjuster. Your exposure to volume of claims, if you're doing claims right, is tenfold what mine is. You'll be on 10 times the roofs that I'm on, right? You'll know damage you'll be able to see it sometimes depending on the size from the street. So legitimate damage, absolutely. Get your photos, get it documented so that even if it's not weather-related damage, let's say it's manufactured damage, still document it, photograph it, because you're doing that anyway because you don't want anybody to think it was you. Keep it in your file. And then get that homeowner or commercial property owner and help move them down the road. Lock up the data loss. Make sure you're building documentation that works. Communicate with the insurance company. Stick to the 3 main pillars. And then don't sit on it for a year if they don't want to pay you. If they're going to play the game, they don't want to buy one slope. Okay, let them think they're right. They're not. We know they're not. They'll still never pay it because they agree, right? But eventually they'll pay it because the documentation is there, the data loss is right, the damage is legitimate, and you created a claim file that can't be beat. It's bulletproof. So yeah. So that's my thing for today. This one's a little bit longer than normal, so we're going to see how it works. My contact information is in my profile on most of my stuff. I think I've got it added here. You guys have a claim that you're working on and you're having a hard time. Maybe it's an old file. Maybe it's 6, 8 months old. Maybe it's a year old. If you're not getting anywhere with it, stop. This is a tag team event. You need to tag somebody else in and get some help. You don't have to be me. I think we do a pretty good job. Tag somebody you trust. Tag somebody who knows what they're doing. Get your basics together on the top 3 things that insurance companies use to deny claims. Remember, they're not actively denying them because of these. If these don't work, they get denied. It's a whole different point of view. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let that happen to your homeowners or your commercial property owners. That's what I got, guys. I hope it helps. I'm just trying to help. Do what I can, give as much as I can. I literally have people that call me and ask for help and want help, and then they're afraid to get the help. I don't understand it. So whatever I can do. My contact information is in my bio. Let me know. Happy to help with anything that we can help with, even if it's just advice or look at a file. I'm licensed in Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana. So I can look at anything and give you an opinion on it, help give you an idea what direction you need to go with it. Obviously, if it needs to be handled, we have more than enough room. We can handle however much capacity anybody can throw at us. Thanks, guys.